and gentlemen, fellow readers, welcome back to one of my epic contemporary romance wrap-ups. I have some good stuff today. First, I want to talk about Love Between the Covers. This is a documentary about the romance writing world. My friends at X Factor Films recommended it to me. Oh, side note about X Factor Films, it's run by two awesome ladies who are working to get opportunities for female directors in Hollywood, so check out their YouTube channel. I will link to it. To clarify, they didn't make this documentary, they just recommended it to me, but they make other kick-ass awesome female content. Anyway, they were like, Gwen, this is right up your alley, and so I ended up renting it on Amazon, and they were totally right. This was released in 2015 and features some of my favorite authors, Eloisa James, who, if you don't know, is also a Shakespeare professor, Kristen Higgins, Robin Carr, Nora Roberts, Jill Shalvis, Courtney Milan. I could go on, but it's a really interesting behind-the-scenes look at their lives and their struggle for respect in the publishing world. If you read a lot of romance, it's definitely worth a watch. Okay. On to the actual books. Kulti by Mariana Zapata. This has been highly recommended to me for quite a while, but it was not at my local library, so I had to finally break down and buy the Kindle edition. This is sports romance, and I can be a little ambivalent about all that sports ball stuff typically, so I was skeptical going in. This one is about professional soccer player Sal, whose longtime soccer hero Rainier Kulti becomes her coach. This has very new adult vibes to it. It's definitely written in that style, but as the youngest character here is 27, it's technically not. That said, if you like new adult, you'll probably really like this one. I definitely did. I found that it had just the right balance of romance and plot. It was really quite excellent. Highly recommend. Like, truly, fully, this was a great book. Try it. Nuts! Hudson Valley Book 1 by Alice Clayton. Hollywood private chef Roxy is called home to watch over her family's diner while her mom is off competing on The Amazing Race. While there, she decides to have a summer fling with the local hot hipster farmer, unaware that Farmer Leo has a secret. I can be ambivalent about Alice Clayton. Sometimes I like her books, and sometimes I don't know, I just don't always connect with her. This one, though, I liked. It felt modern and relevant and pretty dang cute. Shelter Mountain Book 2 in the Virgin River series by Robin Carr. I found the first book in the series somewhat slow, but this one was not. It's about Preacher, who, that's his nickname, not his vocation. He works in the bar of the main character from book 1, big, quiet, shy guy, but then a young woman who has been obviously abused ends up stranded at the bar with her 3-year-old son. I really like the character of Preacher. He warms my heart. I really loved him. There was a key plot point in the middle I felt Robin Carr glossed over a little insensitively, but that came around as another plot point later, so I might be okay with it. I'm still deciding on that one, but otherwise I can say I enjoyed this book more than book 1, actually. I attribute all that to the character of Preacher. I started a new Christina Higgins series, Gideon's Cove, Book 1, Catch of the Day. So in typical Christina Higgins fashion, things balance on the edge of kind of really uncomfortable. Sometimes that really works for me, sometimes it doesn't. In this one, the edge is that our main character, Maggie, has a huge crush on a priest. But then there's also this reclusive fisherman who she finally figures out is actually kind of cute. The whole crush on a priest thing was played up for laughs a little too much in my opinion. Okay, we get it. It was funny, but you need to get more jokes than just that one. But I really liked the character of the fisherman, Malone, so in the end it was kind of worth it all just for him, I guess. The next Christina Higgins book I picked up was The Next Best Thing, which is book 2 in the Gideon's Cove series. Lucy has been friends with benefits with her dead husband's brother for several years now. She decides to break up with him because she thinks it's time to find a new husband. I am sorry, I just did not like her. Well, I did not like the main female character in this book. This book was too much train wreck, not enough heartwarming romance. This whole book just felt a tad bit devastating. Guys, I'm all the way to book 8 on the McCarthy of Gansett Island series. This one is about Adam, who is a McCarthy brother, and Abby. He used to date one of his brothers, and I mean for like 8 years, and they lived together. So yeah, a lot of history there. She comes back to the island after her latest relationship kind of implodes, and she's looking for a rebound affair. So my typical problem with this series is that I usually hate the male leads, find them entitled jerks, for the books where they star, but then once they're supporting characters in future books, I often kind of end up liking them. For this one, though, I actually really liked Adam. Now, I don't know if that means that I will reverse the pattern so that in future books I'll end up hating him, but it made me happy enough with this book in particular. The plot is neither here nor there. It's Adam that toppled this book into like territory for me. So Marie Force also writes romantic suspense, and as I'm an on-again, off-again fan of Gansett Island, I picked up Fatal Affair. Nick is the chief of staff for his best friend, who happens to be a senator until one day Nick finds him dead. The detective assigned to the case turns out to be an old lover of Nick's who he had fallen out of touch of because of nefarious meddling, but he had not gotten over her. Now they must solve the case together. On one hand, I enjoyed the writing. I thought this was well written. On the other hand, this was written 6 years ago, and considering recent events, certain parts of this were perhaps not as apropos for the current times, so that tempered my overall enjoyment of the book somewhat. Tried a new series, Puffin Island by Sarah Morgan, Book 1, first time in forever. Uptight, water-fearing Emily finds herself unexpectedly the guardian of her now-dead famous half-sister's little girl. Running from the paparazzi, they hide on Puffin Island. But have I mentioned that she's deadly afraid of water? And there's Ryan with the insatiable curiosity who is drawn to Emily, but see, he raised his siblings when he was a teen, and he does not want to do the kid thing again. Okay, so verdict. The whole paparazzi hiding premise was pretty ridiculous, but once they gave up the pretense of making that premise the main focus, I actually liked the characters. So not in love with this one, but interested enough to continue on with the series. So I went on to book 2. But my library didn't have it standalone, but it did have it packaged with a Susan Mallory story, so I read the 2 for 1. The Susan Mallory story, The Ladies' Man, is about a kindergarten teacher who gets knocked up by a one-night stand, and really, it was pretty forgettable. The Sarah Morgan book I was actually reading this for was called Some Kind of Wonderful, and it was about Brittany coming back to the island to discover that her ex-husband, who ran out on her just a few weeks after their teenage wedding, is back on the island. I wasn't in love with book 1, but was interested when they teased Brittany and Zach's story, so I wanted to pick up book 2, and it was better than book 1. I liked it. The Perfect Play by J.C. Burton. I have read this book before, and I hate it when I forget to mark books as read in Goodreads. This is my biggest pet peeve with myself. It is super frustrating. This one was about event planner Tara and football pro Mick. I totally already read this sometime in the last few years, and I liked it okay, but not enough to reread it so soon. And continuing my attempt to get through Jill Chavez's entire back catalog, I went back to the South Village Cinco series from the early 2000s and read book 2, Tangling with Ty. This is about uptight surgeon Dr. Nicole Mann and the sexy architect who comes to work on her building only to fall through her ceiling. And yeah, classic Chalvis perhaps, but not good Chalvis. This was before she really found her rhythm. So I tried a Marie Hart book, The Troublemaker Next Door, book 1 in the McCulley Brothers series. A group of girls moves in next door to a group of guys. Those guys are the landlords. So when the girls have a leak, Flynn McCulley comes over to fix it and then has a romance with one of the girls, Maddie. Yeah, you can sense how excited I am about this book. I don't know, there was nothing that really hooked me about this one. The guys were really bro, and Maddie was really angsty. All right, let's talk about Sydney Landon. I love the first couple books of her Danvers series, but then I felt they just took a turn to the blurg side. They've been blurg for many, many books now, to the point where I don't really know why I am still reading this series. So, needless to say, I did not go into book 7, Watch Over Me, with high expectations. Gwen, hey, is the jilted girlfriend from book 6, and she decides to get it out of her system by having a wild night with her neighbor Dominic, who unbeknownst to her has had a major crush on her for a very long time. And do you know what? This book is back to the fun of the first few books. I really liked this one. Granted, I felt the ending could have used a bit of finessing, but the rest of the book is so strong, I will forgive that. Okay, what series have you read where you're like, why am I continuing to read this series? But then you get to a book where you're like, I am glad I stuck this out. And what series in the contemporary romance world should I be adding into my rotation?